Hey, welcome back to Beyond the Manual, and today I'm very excited to do a kind of a box opening for you of a product I just bought for the Firebird. I've been searching about, hey, what to do with gauges. I really like the stock gauges in this car, and as cool as some of the aftermarket gauges are, I really don't want to sacrifice the looks of those early 90s third-gen gauges. And just a quick reminder, I am running a Holley Terminator X Max in this vehicle, so I was trying to see is there a company that can dip into the CAN bus that already has all this information and drive my gauges without spending a bunch of money. And I'm excited to show you what I got. So the product we're going to look at is the digital analog converter by OneGauge. Now you might know them as a company that makes aftermarket gauges, customizable gauge panels and things like that. But they also make this really cool new product to drive your factory gauges directly from sensors or directly from a Phytech, Holley, or OBD2 CAN bus, which is super exciting. So let's go take a look at what came in the mail. So now, while I did take this out of the box, I will say it was very well put together, package that is. So you can order these in a couple different flavors. So this is the mod, and I've already started some here, but this is the module itself. And you can see there's a ton of terminal blocks on here. And we'll go over what some of that does when we actually go to install this and sync it to our factory gauges. But basically, you either have options for having this program to take hardwired sensors, if you will, or in my case, super nice kit, came with a Holley CAN bus Y splitter. So that's what I'm opting to do, is to use the CAN high, CAN low. So that's pre-wired here on this board. And then for my TAC, or maybe this is for speedometer. No, I think this is for my TAC. So what this will do is allow for that coil-driven type of TAC operation. So it's pretty much pre-wired. All I have to do is, I believe this white wire would go to my TAC input. And what I like about this is not only will it drive those gauges, but based on what I've read in their YouTube videos, you can actually program your gauges. You can use your factory gauges for something else. So let's say I want to monitor fuel pressure, but I really don't care about battery voltage. I can reuse my battery voltage gauge as fuel pressure, for instance. So this gives you all of that flexibility. And on top of that, they include a USB port on the side, which is super nice, and that's for updating firmware, the programming inside the module itself. But this is probably the slickest part of this whole setup. So we'll see this when we turn it on. But this is basically a touch screen. So you'll be able to go through here and set up the device itself without having to have a laptop hooked up. You can also, we'll say, tune and tweak your gauges from here, kind of like we just talked about. But all this was very well packaged, and they already have some battery leads on here, which is nice. And so I ordered this with the Holley CAN kit, but it looks like there's also another CAN card in here. We'll do a little digging and figure out what that is. But again, with the USB cable. So in my system, I'm going to the benefits here is I'm going to free up some of my IO on my Holley system by not having to use outputs to drive some of those gauges with pull up, pull down resistors, etc. So I'm going to be freeing up some of that IO, and it gives me the opportunity to use my existing factory gauges as well as kind of tune that needle to make sure they're reading where they're supposed to be. So I'm really looking forward to getting this installed. I'm going to have to find a place to mount this in the car, so that's kind of the next step. But I will put a link to this in the description, but I wanted to get this out there. I thought this was a really cool product that I haven't seen advertised a lot, and we are certainly going to put it to use. And in our next video, we should be far enough along where we're going to actually connect what we need to from our gauges to this. We'll get power put on, and we'll get a video made of us at least getting this set up for our initial gauge programming. I'm really looking forward to that. So again, thank you for watching. I hope this will open this up. Actually, let's do that now. Before I thank you for watching, let's grab a screwdriver, and I'll just show you what's underneath this here. because why not? I now own it, so I can take it apart. Now, I don't know what we're dealing with here. I haven't taken this apart yet, so I think this is just a cover. But the nice thing is you don't need to take this cover off to get to the terminal blocks. You do have a step built into this, which is nice. Take a little bit deeper dive in here. Oh yeah, okay, perfect. So there you have it. There's the inside. It is a double layered board, so there's actually a board underneath this as well. But my plan, I think so far, is just to mount that on top maybe to this cover. There's plenty of length on here. I think if I needed to plop that off to the side, I can do so. But it looks like there's some extra terminals in here for add-on cards and features and whatnots. But I mean, really, you shouldn't have to take the cover off, is what I'm saying. You can get to everything with that cover in place, which is great. I like that. So that's what I got. Again, this is the OneGauge DAC, DAC, digital analog converter, and that's what we're going to be using with our Holley CAN bus. So here we have it installed. I think this is about where I'm going to mount it. I'll build the seat bracket to make sure that it clears this. I'll probably actually cut the carpet around this box just to get that set down a little further, and the carpet will kind of keep that from moving as well. So I did run an extra wire here just in case. This one's for the speedometer. I'm going to initially try to run the speedometer off my Holley Terminator X Max just to see if it works. If it does, great. If it doesn't, I'll wire this in and we'll tune the speedometer off the OneGauge. Sorry if I sound off. I am definitely getting whatever plague my kids brought home from school. But in here we have wired up our coolant gauge and our oil pressure gauge from the factory gauges. And on the other side, I cleaned up the wiring for the point driver for the tach, and got that wired into some wiring here that used to go to the power seats. I'm not going to have power seats anymore. Not a big deal. The other thing I did is, because I figured this screen was going to be manhandled by a guy with big old sausage fingers, I actually went and got some of this off Amazon. I'll put the link in the affiliate description. It's basically a poor man's conformal coating. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it's made to cover electronics on circuit boards, keeps them impervious to dust, water, and all that. In fact, I actually did that to both boards in the unit, just being on the floor here. In the event I spill something because I'm an idiot, I didn't want that necessarily wrecking the unit. And you can kind of see here the glare maybe from that, but I put a nice thick layer on. It only takes 24 hours to cure. That just kind of protects all those electronic components back there. So we'll get this plugged back into the ribbon cable. This might be something I actually feed through and leave in the bottom of the center console when I'm done, just so we don't have to crawl underneath here and plug it in. Maybe not the screen necessarily, but for sure the ribbon cable. And I think we're ready to turn the key on here. We'll get this plugged back in, and I will see what I can do to fight the glare in here. Hopefully it's watchable. So let me get this plugged in, get the keys in the ignition, and test out some gauges. Okay, so here it goes. We do have we have a double Holley Y splitter plugged in. That's going to the OneGauge unit, and then my 5.5-inch screen, and then my USB dongle, which you can do as long as you're not updating firmware. I have already tested it, and it connects to the ECU just fine. As you can see, I also have my shop Crocs on. Side note. So let's throw the key in here. I'm going to try to do my best to reduce the glare. We're not going to start it. I haven't done that yet, but we will roll it over. I have it upside down. I apologize. Okay, and this is how it fires up on the first time. Just wait. This screen will get you back to where you can start. Right And I do have the Holley system on, and I will show you that. So I will try to operate from here. Let's go to other settings, and if we go to CAN bus, it's hard to do one-handed. So you can see it's communicating, it's getting messages from the Holley system. And if we go to data, there you go. You can see that it's from the Holley system. Again, it's bringing in volts. It's bringing in oil pressure, RPM, temp, AGR value, which might actually be neat. That might make installing a AFR gauge a lot easier if I can just drive it on one of these outputs, not have to throw in another sensor. That's kind of neat. So we know that's working. Back. Okay, so we will go through a gauge here. Let me try to make sure. Sorry about the fingers. I know one day I'll get a real camera. Okay, so let's start with, I'll try to bring this up here. So one is basically correlates to the terminal block that you can find in the manual. And we'll begin calibration. I have the oil gauge set up already. We will go and play with the CTS gauge here, the coolant temp. So we're gonna basically, that's in input 1, great, begin calibration. It's gonna say unassigned. We're gonna hit next until we find what we want it to be, in this case, coolant temp. Save. Okay, now low value. Gonna have to play around with this, but we will say for now, the low value is going to be 100. And again, we'll save. Okay, I'm gonna move this down here so it's not as glaring. We'll just go back and forth, I think will be the best bet. Okay, so set low position. Now all this is referring to is, hey, on my gauge, where do I want it to read 100? So I will increase this by 10. Let me show you that first. I'm going to increase it by 10, and we'll monitor what the gauge does. And that'll kind of give us indication what value this wants to start moving the needle. So as you can see, it started moving the needle. I think 0 on here is going to be about as close to 100 as we can get. So we're going to save that for now. And now we're going to set the high value. So this is a 260 degree gauge. So we're going to go 100, 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Save. So now we got to do the same thing on the high side. Set the high position. And that just means, hey, we're going to keep incrementing this until we see what value it's going to output to this gauge to drive it to the max. So let's keep going here. Okay, I would say we are right there on the handheld. That's an internal value of 140. Again, that just means internal value when it starts doing its scaling. That's what it has to output to drive that needle at its max value. So we go ahead and hit save. And we'll probably have to calibrate this a little bit. Again, I'll reiterate, these gauges in these old cars are not linear. They were very much set up to work with specific sensors. Meaning, when you go to tune these, make sure you tune them to the operating range that you're concerned about. So for me, I want to make sure between probably 180 and 225 that I'm the most accurate, and the oil pressure gauge, I'm most accurate between, let's say, 60, 65, and 80. Don't really care if I get below, say, 40 pounds of oil pressure. Again, I have other problems, very likely. So this is going to be the way we test. So let's drive this to 200. So as soon as we jam that in, it's going to go to where it thinks 200 is. And I'm pretty inclined to say, after that gauge settles a bit, that's pretty close. I'm happy with that. Let's see where 225 would be, give or take. Okay, 225. Yeah, I would say, you know, about mark and a half, 2 marks past 220 on our gauge. Sorry for the back and forth if it's making you sick. Again, I'm sick, and I want to get this recorded because this is a really cool product. So we're going to say that's pretty darn good. Let's set it back to 0, and I want to test one more value. Let's test this at, I wanted to test it at like 180. Okay. So doing math here, halfway between 100 and 220 should be like, I don't know, 100 and, well, we'll say at 180, that's probably pretty close. It could probably come a little bit higher, but I think this is close enough for what we're doing on the factory gauges. So I'm gonna hit save here. Now that saves that calibration in the module. So really that's the only time you need to use this gauge is for setting those gauges up. And just to prove to you that we'll go out and take a look at it. It's probably easier. So we'll go out and I'll show you the Holley screen that, yes, the system is on and we are communicating. So here's our Holley 5.5-inch gauge. This is going to be what is going to be probably mounted right underneath the dash. This will be kind of my one source of truth while driving. So the factory gauges will be kind of a nice quick check. If something looks off, I can always go and get exact values from this guy. So again, that is the OneGauge digital analog converter. And just to tie it together, I just wanted to show, this is what we were talking about. This is a printout of that board. So when we went to 1, that's this gauge 1 output. And if you click on that number again, it goes to 2 and cycles through 6. Then you can see 5 and 6 are green, meaning those are reserved specifically for tack or speed. So right now I'm using strictly coolant and oil. If you are doing an aftermarket fuel unit that has a sender that isn't, say, most GMs are 0 to 90, let's say you get one that's like 30 to 170 ohms. You can feed that fuel gauge into here and then scale it to adjust to your dash gauge. So again, for what it is and what it does, this being version 1 or something like that, I'm very happy with it. I would say the learning curve was not bad at all. Once you get your wiring from your gauge to an accessible point, anyone I feel like can do this. Again, a nice upgrade here with a conformal coating. It's pretty cheap. I'll post that link. And hopefully you guys appreciate it, or I guess get something out of this video. Like I said, there's all sorts of gauge videos out there, but this is such a new product. I wanted to make sure that I got out in front of it and showed you guys in case you're at this point in your build as well. And stay tuned because we are just a hop, a skip, and a jump away from getting this bad boy started. Hopefully it doesn't blow up. Great.